We bad boys, I'd like to think that me and my 100% male audience are the very definition of bad boys. So, I have found some stories about bad boys in RPG horror stories. DM gets high on acid, loses all planning, and forces an orgy. Now, I have to admit I'm guilty of playing Dungeons & Dragons on acid as a player. I've never DM'd on acid. Maybe I should do that one day. Just start a Roll20 public game, get random people in, everything's normal except the reveal is that the entire city was intelligent dinosaurs using magic, and I just imagine a T-Rex with his teeny arms trying to do delicate alchemy or whatever. Sorry. This is the first of 2 stories I plan on posting, this one being the shorter of the 2 and the easiest for me to write out. I suggested to a group of my class buddies to play 5e as it was our first time playing Dungeons & Dragons. I helped everyone roll some characters as I had the most knowledge, my boyfriend DMs a group of players and we talked about the game a lot. The first few games are fun and the DM plays an improv style which works well enough. We're having fun, but slowly we were losing interest. I think it was due to how blatant it was that our DM wasn't prepared, and how he couldn't bullshit his way through our choices well enough. I don't think it helped that his world was basically ripped from Game of Thrones. I think the game that broke us was the last we played, which started out like any other. Until while prep, the DM drops 2 acid tablets, and completely screwed over the game. At first, he just threw some dumb encounters at us for no rhyme or reason. Then out of the blue, he has us encounter an evil druid disguised as a bear and railroads me, female ranger, and his minotaur DMPC to have a threesome with said druid. That kills her. The only thing that warranted this was my character flirting with the druid as she tried to get directions, which I figured sweet-talking my way with her would help. But nope, straight up death by minotaur. This was the first thing that kind of started to sway me away from this game, but we stuck out the rest of the session, which involved the party getting high because said druid released some hallucinogen into the air, our characters freaking out, then we stopped. Needless to say, not many of that party played D&D again. I did however start DMing a group of people, and that will tie into my next story. And this was 7 days ago, maybe they posted a new story. Maybe it'll be in a future video. Find out. This next story is about a badass dad. My dad was that guy. This past summer, my friends and I got together to play D&D, and since my dad used to play when he was a kid, I wanted to invite him to join us. Now I've been into D&D for about 2 years now, and I've had some experience as a DM, so I felt that I could be reasonably competent at making a campaign. We all got together and I explained the rules to my dad, and I then gave him a copy of the player's handbook, telling him to let me know if he had any questions about character creation. The next week the group got together. I checked in on everyone, and when I got to my dad, there was something noticeably absent on his character sheet, a flaw. No, he was a tough fighter, he didn't have any flaws. After a bit of arguing and me telling him that everyone had to have a flaw, he begrudgingly wrote, slightly arrogant. Just slightly. He could have made a dad joke instead, but he didn't. Not a very good dad, 0 out of 10 on the dad scale. The adventurers start off in a tavern, the wizard strikes up a conversation with the cleric, and the rogue starts watching the bar patrons. My dad? I go out and start fighting the bad guys. What bad guys? What a shitty DM, he doesn't even have any bad guys in his campaign. Cry, no, just kidding. Clearly the bad guys who the adventurers are supposed to be fighting. Roleplay is a waste of time. At this point I figured that I needed to move the story along. Everyone heard screams outside and adventure ensued. Things were pretty okay for a while, although his slightly arrogant personality probably should have been extremely arrogant. Still, everyone got through the first dungeon alright. Then the party went to town and, why are we wasting time? I'm going out on another adventure. Does the cleric want to stop to pray to her deity? No, we have to go fight something. Does the wizard want to purchase a new spellbook? No, that's a waste of time, and besides, the wizard barely did any damage anyway. Is the rogue trying to pilfer something from a passing caravan? Quit talking and just steal it already. Besides, unless it gives you XP, it isn't worth his time. That was pretty much the whole campaign. He hated roleplay, he hated the wizard for not doing enough damage at the first level, and he just wanted to fight everyone. At one point the party found a magic sword that was clearly best suited for the rogue, and he immediately claimed it as his own. When it started acting suspiciously and the wizard wanted to examine it, my dad declared that if he toughed it, he would shove it up his ass. Later, the wizard and the rogue conspired together to steal the sword so they could figure something out about it. And after failing the roll to notice they were taking it, and arguing with me that since he heard them talking in real life, his character must know what is going on, my dad got up and shouted that he was going to grab the sword and stab all of us with it. He rolled again, despite everyone telling him that his character still had no idea that the sword had been taken, and in perhaps the most glorious moment of the whole campaign, he failed. I wrapped up the campaign earlier than I planned to, even though I'm disappointed that the ending wasn't quite as conclusive as it could have been. I and all of my friends are glad that my dad is no longer in the party. I'm not quite sure how he played when he was a kid, but in this campaign, he was definitely not lawful good. I think that's like the big difference between like current D&D and like old D&D, is that there's such like this heavy role-playing like focus on new D&D, and it's like pre 3.5, like 3.5 and like even before 3.5, like OG D&D was basically you get dropped in a dungeon, go kill a bunch of shit, drag the loot back to town, then go back into a dungeon and kill a whole bunch more. So I can definitely understand like where the dad was coming from. He was like, this is not like how I played it when I was a kid at all. Back in my day, we never did any of this talking, we just stabbed shit, and oh my god, my voice. Sorry about that. Moving on, very badass dad. 10 out of 10. Player derails session, suicide by guards, and quits because he didn't get his way. I'm DMing, going well so far. Party enter big city, like 4 to 5 sessions in. Player, who I shall call Edgelord, was a Yuan Ti pureblood druid who worshipped an insane spider god from the desert. Now already this is sounding pretty fucking bad boy to me, I'll tell you what. There is a big market going on, big festival where all the traders get her to sell their goods from distant lands. It was originally an excuse to introduce the players to how much diversity there was in my magical items generator while giving them the chance to buy some weak magic items and observing some strong ones, as well as buying weapons, ammo, spells and such. The rogue goes and steals from the poorer stalls, farmers mostly. The ranger goes looking for a new now and more arrows. The barbarian doesn't really do much, but follow the ranger. Edgelord Druid, he goes to the exotic animals trader. He wants a pet displacer beast or a big cat. I knew there is no way he can afford one, assuming they even have one, let alone train and not get eaten by it. I roll for rarity of animals, 13. They have a tiger, a panther, and a jaguar. He wants the panther. Merchant wants 1,000 gold for it. Player tries to haggle. He has 8 gold. In his defense, he made a good argument and rolled well. The trader was happy to take 800 gold. Edgelord turns around and starts cutting the ropes, holding the panther's cage shut. Merchant is like, what the fuck? Stop, it's a wild hungry animal in a crowded market. Edgelord continues. Merchant shoves Edgelord. Edgelord continues. Merchant punches and shouts for guards. Edgelord stops and slashes the merchant. In the biggest market in the country, on the busiest day of the year, in the capital of said country. Commoners have shite hit points, enough damage was done to kill him. I try to DM in player's favour to not derail, guy is on the floor bleeding to death, let Edgy know that the guy can still be saved. Edgelord kneels down to the guy, stabs him right in his face. Many people are now shouting for the guards. 12 guards, all in chainmail, short swords. I hate doing plot armor, but they all have buffed AC and have much more health. I want them to subdue Edgelord while making it harder for him to commit further crimes. This is a real shitty DM moment here. You could have had that wild animal escape. It could have probably killed Edgelord and created crippling repercussions for the rest of the party, which probably would have been interesting to explore. But instead, plot armor guards, because I can't deal with it. Sorry, it's just, that's my opinion on it. After attempting to fight them, he has a dagger and no armor at all, finally gets captured and taken to the dungeon in the central castle. Go back to other players who want to play seriously for a bit. They wonder where Snake Bitch, his character was Fiamma by the way, got to, but shrug it off. Always been distant and has only known them for a few days. Next day, guards come in, ask what the fuck, he rolls deception, fucking 18, claims he is an assassin from the Tiefling Nation, bounty hunting is legal here and the merchant had a bounty. Guards ask for proof, he pulls out some 500-year-old crusty-ass scroll with a bissel on it, it's his druid focusy thing, and says, this is the bounty and permission to kill the merchant. Guards leave, go back to party doing normal shit. Later he is taken to another room. 2 people are sat at the table, both formally dressed and very official looking. One is a tiefling. Non-tiefling asks the same questions. Edgelord repeats, gets another good deception roll, pulls out scroll. Tiefling looks over it and shakes his head. Spoiler alert, he can read Abyssal. Edgelord, in his infinite wisdom, jumps over the table and starts beating the living shit out of the tiefling. Guards rush in, take him back to his cell. Session ends with the players hearing about some terrorist execution. I gave him favourable conditions to get out of trouble, then favourable conditions to lessen his trouble, then conditions to not get his neck redeemed from his head. His final words before the execution were, "Fuck this, I'm out. Good riddance." TLDR, Weakcast Druid didn't have enough money for a panther, stabbed the merchant, battled guards, and lied and punched himself to the headsman's block. GG. Now, I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, yeah, he was a shit player, but like, I feel like any decent DM would have tried to roll with the punches on that one. Like, release the panther, that would have been an awesome moment. Because there's nothing worse than, like, I know that, like, there's a difference between, like, railroading and, like, letting someone derail. This is, like, 50-50 where, like, everyone's the asshole. If I was, like, that DM, I would have let him release the panther. If he rolled well enough to do it, I would have released the panther. It would have gone fucking ape shit on panther shit on everyone. But, like, guards with, like, plot armor, AC, everyone's an asshole. Edgelord, definitely a bad boy. DM, not so much. Sorry if you're reading this or listening to this, you probably aren't. But I've had people in my comments saying, hey, this is my post, and it's like, oh, well, you probably don't like what I have to say. And that's going to be the end of this video. If you want to see more content like this, scroll down, hit the dislike button, so I know just how much you're enjoying this trash. Do you have any bad boy stories of your own? You can send them to literalgarbage@gmail.com. Pending. I haven't checked to see if it's available yet. I'm gonna go check now, hang on. Okay, literalgarbage@gmail.com was taken. You can send them to garbageverbatim@gmail.com if you have any bad boy stories of your own. Scroll down, hit the dislike button, subscribe, don't turn the bell on. Just subscribe and dislike. Email your stories to garbageverbatim@gmail.com. The end.